The following is the preamble to Anishinaabe Chinaknagewan, the great law of the Anishinaabe Nation, which was proclaimed on June 6, 2012. The speaker is Anishinaabe Elder Gordon Wandabes.
Godoe anigisit Anishinaabe. Debenjigate Gisan Anishinaabe o King. Kibetagonaga dene Manido Wadziwin. Skode Nebe Ke Nodin Kibetagosnon We Nagden among Mompi Uskakamegan. Debenjigate Giminan which to Endaguk Anishinaaben Wanagdonjin Ninda Nijoswe Kinomaduinan Zagedwin Deboewin Manaden de Moin Nebokawin the Badendiswin Gwekodziwin Minwa Akadewin Debenjiget Giminugona Dedebenwe we Nagaden duin Kamanaden dana Gabe Juebak Minwa Mego Ejuebak Minwa Giabe Wabi Juebak.
Bojo, Migas Kwadishnakas Makwadodam. That's my spirit name. My English name is Veronica Dokis. I'm originally from Nipissing First Nation. I moved to Dokis back in the 70s. I raised my children here. I'm a mother of 6 children, 3 sons and 3 daughters. I am a grandmother, a gokmas of 9 kids, grandchildren. And I have 3 great-grandchildren. This is my shop. It's here at home, and I'm able to do what has to be done outside, inside, and it's open to the public in the summertime from May till usually late after Thanksgiving. And my busiest time here is usually July at the peak of summertime. I learned that moccasin making here in Dokis back in the 70s, the late 70s, and there was a couple of elders here at that time who were making them but taught us moccasin or the mitts or the regalia and all that is a part of them. And to me it's kind of like something I had seen when I was young at my grandma's house, my mom's grandma's house. I had seen those things, but never got to make them. Okay, because they passed when I was young, and my mom's grandma passed also when I was young, before I was even 10. So I didn't get that. And my mom, well, we were a family of 12. So she didn't have that to give. Yeah, once I got into it, that was pretty well what kept my family going, and it's a big part of me. Well, right now what we're going to do is we're going to show you some of the materials or tools that I use when I do making moccasins. So the first thing we're going to use is we're going to use a scissor. And then the other thing I do use are these cutters, these rotor cutters. I'm finding that they're a lot easier and a lot faster to cut around the material, to hide in that. But when you're using small, dainty stuff, you have to use this. So the next thing that I would use are markers and pencils, pens. This one here I found this one at a fabric store. I find this one very interesting because it's a pen or a marker that you use. And if you put heat to this, if you touch it with an iron, your iron is medium, this will disappear as opposed to a pen mark. This here is a beading thread and it fits on number 11 needle. This one here is a Coats Extra Strong. This one here you use when you put the moccasins together. These are Glover's needles. These are number 4s, and when you're using your Glover's needles and you're sewing with your hide, they get dull. I get this sharpening stone. Any sharpening stone you can use. So these Glover's needles have 3 points to them. So when they get dull, you just get your stone and you go like this. There's 3 points, so you sharpen it on each point. This is a leather punch. And then what I use these little clips for are to hold things. Especially when I'm sewing with moccasins or mitts. It's they come in handy when you want to do little things like this. And these you can pick up at the fabric store. Also, I use a ruler, and then I use this cutting board also. I use this board for these because you don't want to, you want something that's thick and it's pliable, and it's used for this to cut your leather or your material. Because if you use it just on your tablecloth like that, or in your table, or it will mark it, it will cut it. So we're going to make a pattern. Hopefully you can follow it. First thing you're going to do is find a piece of paper that's a little bit longer than 12.5 inches, 12.5. And you're going to make a 7 inches this way, a line. And then you're going to go 12.5 inches this way. This is your moccasin. This is the bottom of it. So at the bottom of it, you're going to go from this area in 2.5 inches. Then you're going to mark it. Okay? And then the opposite side, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to start from here to measure, and you're going to go 2.5 inches or 2.5 inches in, go up this way to 1.5 inches, and you're going to mark it. Same thing on this side. So these are your heels of your moccasin. That's this part right here. Go from here up to 6.5 inches, 6.5 inches. You're going to make a mark here. And then you're going to go on the opposite side and you're going to go up 7.5 inches. Then at the top here, what you're going to do is you're going to find the center of that 7 inches. So which is 3.5 or 3.5 inches. Okay? And you're going to put a mark there. So what we're going to do now is to make this curve. This is the top end of your moccasin. This is the toe area, okay? So you're going to come from 6.5 and you're going to gradually go in. So once you do this pattern and you think you've got it completed, you just cut it out. So when you go to cut it out, you only need to make one of these, okay? Because one side is a right side, and then when you flip it over, on the other side, it will be your left side, okay? So when you go to cut on your hide, you put it down like this, you trace it out, trace this out, marking, and then you will take it and you will flip it over on this side, opposite side, and you will do the same thing. Repeat it. And this here is your vamp. This is the top side of your this is the top of your moccasin. So you need 2 of these also. So this is the pattern for that. So you will make a square, 1 line here, 5.5 inches. And then you go across this way at 3.5 inches. Then you find your center of that square. And this is the center here. And it's 1.3 inches. Okay? So it's the same thing at the bottom. 1 3/4 inches. So this is your center. You will put a mark here. That's about 1 inch from the top. Okay? This is your top here. This one's 1 inch also. So what we do there now is we find your center, and then you will go to this mark. And then you do the opposite side also. Just kind of go like that. Okay? So now what you're going to do from this point is you're going to gradually, this is your square here, so you're going to gradually bring it in also. And you're kind of rounding it off down to the center here. Okay? And you're going to repeat that and start at this end and go down. Put your holes in there too. From here to there, it's about 3/4 inch. Here too, you will trace one side and then you will flip it over. Once you've done this, let's say you wanted to make a size 9 moccasin. So what you do there is you add a 1/2 inch to your pattern. You make another paper, you get another paper, and you place this on top. Make sure this is a little bit longer. This is where you add a 1/2 inch. So you would go like this. You mark it out, you trace it all the way around again, and then you would bring these down also 1/2 inch. Okay? If you want to make it smaller, you do the opposite. You take a 1/2 inch off on your next pattern that you're making. So today what we're going to do is I'm going to teach Brianna how to make moccasins. So what we're going to use there today is what I purchased was buffalo hide. And I like working with buffalo. I like working with moose, elk, deer. Deer hide, I usually use it for baby moccasins because it's softer and it's not as hard for them to put on. But this here is buffalo. She's going to trace her pattern. So with that with that hide, what you do with it first is you check the stretch on it. So you would see if it stretches this way, or see it stretches pretty wide this way. So her moccasin's going to be placed this way because you want it to stretch this way as opposed to moving this way. So she's going to trace this out. I usually bead my moccasins, the vamp part of it, but with this little bit of time, there's not enough time to bead. So what I've done was I showed how you put your pattern on. You sew it on and then you bead it. These are strawberries. So what I've done with that, this one here is I've put my pattern on there and I stitched it on. And then this one here, I beaded it, the outline of it. And I will just take this paper off. Okay, and then I fill it in. I start from the outside going inwards with my beads.
So this one's good to trace as well?
Yeah.
Like this way?
Yeah, you flip this one up and do it here. Do this one too. what she's going to do there now is trace out her pattern, and then she will cut it out. And then do your vamp. Turn it the other way. You try and use as much of it, as close to it as possible, so you're not wasting. There. So now she's finished tracing her pattern. So once she's done the one side, she flips it over because there's a left and a right all the time. So then she retraces this side, and then she does the vamp. This way. She does the vamp. That's the top part of the moccasin. And she marks these little holes here too, because that's where your lacing is going to go after. So that has to be done right away, so you'll know exactly where to punch the holes with the leather punch. And then she flips it over and does the same thing on this side. So now what Brianna is going to do is she's going to cut these out, and then we will start sewing. Okay? See, this leather, this elk hide is not very thick. Oh, buffalo hide, I should say, is not very thick, but it's not too thin either. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be easier to sew. There are some moose hides that you can get that is really thick, and they're good more for mitts and stuff like that. Okay, so Brianna decided this is the part that she's going to show. So we take this and we fold it over. Tuck this one, it's easier. Then you grab this piece of leather that you cut out, and you place it in here. Then you start stitching. Okay. Then you take your needle, and what I do is I do the overhand stitch like this, and as close and as tight as you can, so that it holds it in there. So you do that. She'll do that all the way up there now till I'll do a couple more stitches. Do you want to use the book? No? Okay. So she's got to pull it tight now because we got to flip it after, and you don't want the thread to show. So all you do is just tie a knot.
Okay.
That's it. And then you cut. And then this one here, you turn it. That's where you turn it.
Okay.
And then we would cut this, we trim this.
Ah.
I like mine to show. So what I usually do is I just make this round. Like so. And then we would just stitch this up.
Okay.
I've taught a few courses on moccasins, and I'm a perfectionist. When it's done, it's got to be done the way I want it. See, this here is a little bit too much. So I trim it as close as I can. Then you just go like that, all the way around. Fold it like this, bring it up, and then I mark it here. That's the center of this vamp now. Okay. So now she'll do this here too. You'll find a center also. Like so. So it's like that. Okay, so next step is we're going to start puckering. So we'll find a center here. This is the way I do it. I find a center and I put my thread in on this side. Like that. Then I go on the inside like this. Okay? So now we're going to take this and we're going to fold it opposite now. Because this is the inside now, this is the outside. So we're going to fold it like this and we're going to start puckering. So we go, what I usually do is I use my finger, but the first one is not too bad. You don't make it too big. You bring it up, you flip it, and then you go on this side of that mark for your first one. And that's the first one. So your center mark will match here, okay? That's the center. So now she's going to go about 1/8 of an inch, just a little bit in. And then she's going to go just a little bit over, maybe 1/4 of an inch. That looks to be about 1/4 of an inch, eh? And you go about 1/4 of an inch. And then we start all over again. So go like this, and like that. And we tuck it under, bring this up. Fingers are not working now. Under this part here. In here and 1/4 of an inch, okay? Okay, try again. Oh, close enough. Seems awkward that way, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, once the heel is done, then she started doing the puckering. So you only go so far with it. You mark it where you put a mark at one end and the other end, and that's where you start after. Once you finish your puckering, you start, I call this the running stitch. It just goes back and forth. So it just goes in and out until she gets to that mark, just below here. Okay, just give me that piece of thread. I'll keep that because I'll reuse it again. Just rethread your needle. I use a sewing machine on it though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I cheat. It's supposed to be hand sewn, but I cheat. So I do the heel the same way, and then I mark it here, and then I just kind of fold these in, and then I just, running with the sewing machine, sew it up. It's faster. This way you don't have to wear socks. Yeah. And some people do anyways, but that's okay. But I always put a liner in there. Okay, so now we're going to restart this side. So we're going to go in, see where your knot is. You're just going to go just a little bit past that. Okay, you come out there. Ouch. The left side is always awkward for me, so I have to kind of flip it back and forth. And you just kind of bring it out a little bit, just to kind of match that. Okay, so for this lacing, what we're going to do is we're going to grab a piece of leather that's small. It doesn't have to be very big. And you cut it, and you kind of make a circle out of it. So now all you have to do is start cutting. Usually it's about 1/4 of an inch. And you just go around in a circle. And this will be your lacing for your moccasin. After, okay? That way. Oh, a little bit more. Up here. So we're going to tuck this under here, like so. Then you're going to go like this. Now you got to watch, you got to make sure you don't go right through, because you don't want your stitching to show on this side. Okay?
So even this part gets folded?
Yeah,
like all the way?
everything gets tucked under. Then you keep checking to make sure you didn't go through. Not much. 1/8 of an inch. You don't bring it all the way up, because you want the stitching here and here to match here after. Okay. You want to try?
Yep.
Okay. So we measure from this point, and we measure it all the way around. So I'm going to double it because she's got to cut the other one. She's got to do the other one. That's not good. So I usually just go an inch and a half in. Can't see it. It's easier to do it this way because when you go to sew this one on there, you got to hold, try and keep them from moving around. But this way here, if you stitch it, it's a lot easier. So now you just put this on there like that, roughly about half, okay? You're on the home stretch. And then you go just a little bit, like so your stitch will show a little bit, okay? Yeah, about this much. And you come back on this side a little bit further than this one, okay? And you do the same thing, a little bit. Put it at an angle so it'll come out a little bit further. This is where your thread will get caught though, okay? And sometimes when you pull your thread through, it doubles or it folds over. So you got to make sure you check it before you move on. Because if you don't, then you have to backtrack. Yeah. I've done that so many times. There you go. Yes, you'll need that. There's a thicker one here too. These are Anishinaabe thimbles.
Yeah.
Yeah. What to do there. So go back up and you tie this part down. Okay. Then you hide your stitch. Be persistent. Don't be shy to ask for help because it is there. It's here. It's here in the community. It's around, not just here but all around us. First Nations are starting to coming alive type thing. just don't be shy to ask for help or to ask, how can I do this? Can you help me? Because our young people are so resilient now. They're some of them are out there dancing in the powwows, some of them are singing, some of them are teaching the language. My grandson was teaching the language in the school, and he just started learning too. So it's that time where to grasp everything as much as you can, because it's there. It's a part of them. They should know who they are. Like, when we started doing the powwow back in 2000, we had started that. And then my partner and I, we decided that at that time that it was time for this community to have something for the children in the future, so that they'll know who they are. Okay, they don't have the language like back then. It was taken away from here. Hardly anybody spoke the language here. And the elders that do have already traveled to that other place. And so for me, it was like we needed to know too. Like, I knew who I was, and but my children and grandchildren, they needed to know. And my great-grandchildren, yeah, they needed to know. They needed to know that they are Anishinaabe, and that it's who they are in here, and not just the outside of it.